In my first 100 days of war, I created the strongest team on the server. But now I'm on my way to raid the biggest base in the server. And while doing some recon, I spotted an allied leader. They attacked early. This wasn't the plan, but whether I like it or not, he's now dead and I have to spot the enemy who killed him. I took my armor off to blend in as long as possible. I watched the enemy for a while. Then I took the shot. After waiting a bit, I left to group up with the main attack. I geared my team up, and then we attacked. Close to the target, I spotted a player with a cyan armband. Guys, hostile, blue armor trim. This is a new team that is not allied with us. The Abyssal Mercenaries. Don't shoot. Everyone, aim your guns and get ready. There's light blue armor trim. Only shoot unless fired upon. Since they didn't respond to my chat, we searched the area for them, but when we saw the freshly placed dirt, we knew they tunneled down. Look, we can't have random people running around here. They know that we're coming. They know we're here. We asked them whose side they're on, and they haven't declared anything, so we're just gonna assume they're hostile. So we left them and continued on to the enemy base. Here is the Citadel's wall, and I'm gonna breach it. CandyPower is placing a charge now. Everyone get back from CandyPower. Alright. Move up. Watch out for landmines. The server rules don't allow us to place blocks inside the enemy base, and since there's no way up, we need to breach again. Everyone get back again. These charges have 10-second delays, so... We can right here, parkour jumps, but we can. The enemies must have been on the wrong side of the base since we didn't see any yet, but I kept moving. Alright, breaching again. Everyone get back from that wall. Yeah, get ready to use your close quarters weapons. They might be long, they might be close, we don't know. Just make sure you're on full auto. Oh. Then an enemy sniper shot one of our soldiers. However, since this breach won't work out, I ran around the wall placing more explosives. We're not going to be able to get in from that one. I'm putting down 2 more charges. Everyone stay back. Alright, got sharps. His body's on a tree somewhere. I got one enemy on a tree, and now it was time to move in. Oh, there's guys. There's a guy down there. Here, I'm moving in. Alright. The enemy had the high ground, and I was only able to take one out before my first death. I grabbed a reinforcement loadout and headed back to the fight. I got one and the other ran away. Since these were the mercenaries, they didn't spawn inside the enemy base, so that meant every time they died, they had to walk back to the base. When I made it inside the base, I immediately grabbed a fallen soldier's gear. Then I defended the breach so the mercenaries couldn't get back into the base. Alright, got him. Then a soldier from my team arrived, but he was gunned down, so I looked for the source. Alright, got sharps. Since we had to wait for the rest of our soldiers to respawn, I took the chance to create some more openings. Alright, I'm setting off another charge. Fully circling the enemy base, I returned my weapon to the original owner before pushing forward again to collect some more gear. Then I peeked up. Oh, and I lagged right as I'm about to shoot him. My lag wasn't making it easy, but I kept taking the enemy gear. Here, take this. Yeah, Sharps is here. While re-gearing, the same enemy respawned again. I set a charge and then took cover. I'm putting out a charge up here. With a strong entry point now established, we regrouped and regeared again. And I advance. Our goal is to hit their spawn point. Alright. Got one of them. Nice. A mercenary tried to infiltrate, but we got them. Moving through the forest, we eventually arrived at a house. Oh, yeah. Alright. You guys ready? Inside the building, a spy informed me that the gear room was behind the dirt blocks. The intel was correct, so I had most of my team grab things that looked valuable. Seeing a hole in the floor, we realized there was another part to the base. Alright, everyone drop down into this tunnel here. Once down, I blew up a staircase to try and find a secret stash. I'm breaching under that stairway, so everyone get back to this stone tunnel here. This is when a bamboo raft was spotted, meaning there's a tunnel behind the walls, and the rafts are how you enter. But while looking for more rafts, the enemy attacked from above. Oh, up! Sharps is above! I tried to salvage most of the gear from this body, but since the enemy would keep respawning, time was limited. Alright, Sergeant, I got a task for you. I need you to open that body up there and take the loot out of it while I suppress, alright? Ready? Alright, go now. Grab it, grab it, grab it. Click transfer. Everyone come over to where I am. Now it was time to make an escape with the gear we had. But on the outside of the wall, one of our soldiers hit a landmine. Oh, landmine! Enemy knows where our positioning is now. Alright, yeah, grab that. I will do my best to get... Oh. Sharps is right there. After collecting most of his stuff, we moved along hugging the wall to avoid any landmines. Now we made a break for the outer wall. Once outside the walls, we safely made it back to the base without losing anyone else. After stashing our gear, we headed back for a second attack round. While traveling, one of our soldiers got disconnected, so we were stuck in place until he rejoins. Then, an enemy ambushed us while we were stuck, so we had no choice but to fight back. I hit him once. Alright. Well, I guess we're kind of disabled in place right now. I got him. Once our teammate had rejoined, we moved onwards. When we got inside the outer wall, I moved up to plant a charge. Alright. Alright, 3-second charge. Everyone get back. We can't worry about the mines right now. We just gotta get into the base. This time inside the base, I went for the high ground. Alright, you and Glitch can try and kill him, find their spawn. Anything. Alright, I'm on top of the walls now. Oh, I got one guy on top of the walls. Alright, Penny, can you loot this guy? Alright, that's good. We got everything that we needed, Penny Pickle. Oh, got one guy down by the bamboo. Let's see and watch which way they respawn from up here on the walls. Once on the walls, we had a vantage point over the whole base. The raid was now in the final phase, where we had to track down and destroy the spawn point. Oh! Before I could do any of that, the enemy rushed out, and we somehow traded at this close range. While my soldiers held the point, I moved back. When I made it to the base, I collected an ally's gear and gave it back to them. Then I spotted an enemy. I got one. Little did I know, my shot had achieved a double kill, on accident. But now, to collect the enemy corpses, I had to run through a minefield. Alright, Penny, are you still on top of the wall? Alright. Nice job. Successfully reaching the enemy gear, we now had to move back. But then I was ambushed. Alright, Jordan, it's time to make it into the... Oh, I'm being shot, I'm being shot. I'm being shot from the side of the walls somewhere. I don't know if it's on top of the walls. Someone is shooting into the bamboo. I thought the friendly soldiers on the wall were shooting me. Blue skin is sharps. Yo, friendlies, you're shooting us. Guys, inside the bamboo is friendly. But I hadn't seen it was actually this guy, and the friendly soldiers on the wall were shooting at an enemy inside the bamboo forest. Then I received information that one of my soldiers had observed the likely spawn point of the enemy leader, meaning if we could destroy their bed, we could take out their base. Alright, he's coming from the farm, that's good to know. Now all that I had to do was blast around the farm to expose wherever their spawn point was hiding. Here is where we found the enemy bunker. But it was now an issue. You see, the enemy bunker was made of obsidian, and we weren't allowed to break obsidian. So I went down. Now, 1x1 obsidian kill chambers aren't exactly allowed on the server, but that didn't change the fact that it is still impossible to raid. So after dying, I grabbed some explosives and came back with one final mission. Kill as many enemies inside the kill chamber. Completely obsidianified the entire thing. Yeah, I clicked 2 underground. Nice. Here I discovered that even though I couldn't break into the spawn point, I could still use explosives to deal damage. Now since this base wasn't raidable, I had to call a retreat for our team. But I was going to wait around a bit longer to make sure our team made it out safely. While I was here, I grabbed some extra gear from fallen enemies. I tried to distract them, but none of my shots hit, so I went for cover. I missed another shot, but they didn't seem to notice. Now I had to escape through a nearby tower. Finally, on my way out, I sent one more gift. However, I had to go in real life, so I wasn't able to fight for the defense. But later, I found out the enemy didn't even launch a counterattack. They had disbanded their team after we raided them. But you see, the mercenaries who fought for them hadn't forgotten the battle. So their leader put a 10 diamond block bounty on my head, and because I could no longer trust my team, I had to grab some supplies and leave in the middle of the night. For my new life, I set up a base so powerful that any attackers would be guaranteed to die at least once. But I was missing something important. Bandages can keep you alive, even in very dangerous situations, but they require redstone and I didn't have any, so I came up with a plan. I put out a trade request, and it wasn't long before the enemy mercenaries set up a trade. Now this was an obvious trap, because there was no way that the people who put the bounty on my head would not know that there was a bounty on my head, but I still needed the redstone, so I headed out. However, when I showed up, the enemy was very obviously standing in the open, so I took my shot. Alright, we got him. Nice. Now we gotta run up and grab it before we... Not only did I get the redstone for bandages, but I also got some other cool toys. I later found out the mercenary leader hadn't even told his soldiers that I was kill on sight, so instead his soldiers had paid the price. Either way, they were now attacking me, so I got ready for a siege. But this base wasn't any old cabin. Below it was a maze of landmines, tunnels, and barricades that would take more than just 3 lives to clear. The siege began with the cabin above the bunker, but their RPG shots could easily tear through the cabin. Oh, I see him. Well, my cabin is being shelled. It's time to get down, Mr. President. Once inside, I waited. Above ground, the abyssal mercenaries were destroying the cabin. Still clear.
Hey, look at this.
Yep, I see him. Or I see a landmine. You have an RPG on you yet? Throw one right down in there, I guess.
Since I could hear the enemy, I moved back behind another barricade and waited for them to come down the stairs. But then the attackers were eliminated. Now at this point, I could pick one of 2 paths. I could loot everything these players have now and secure that they can't strike again. But where's the money in that? I'm here for content, so I took a few things before heading back to the vault room to store them. Well, I mean, we are in the middle of a raid, so never a better time to do some potato farming. Then I went back up and waited for the enemy to descend the stairs. They're gonna come down the stairs and instantly get blasted.
I'm tempted to have somebody do the same thing as earlier.
Where's
But I will sacrifice myself. I'll sacrifice myself.
Yep,
Where's
I'm-
Simon? Is he just watching the door?
Probably.
And we go. And we go. Subscribe to CandyPower. Subscribe to CandyPower. Since 2 enemies had descended the stairs, I moved after shooting just one of them. I waited a long time. Then, hearing an explosion, I made a guess on where in the bunker they were, and went out to go ambush them. Oh. They're not where I thought they were. Alright, back to positioning. However, they were still exactly where I had left them 15 minutes ago, so I knew I was still clear. After waiting another 10 minutes, I heard a click, meaning someone placed an explosive to my side, and since I didn't know how far the blast would go, I moved further back into the bunker just in case. This room was by far the deadliest. After even longer, I could hear them talking in proximity chat, and I got ready. Oh, we know they're coming now. Oh, we got one of them. Okay, we missed that shot. There was a guy there. Now we switch to the other position.
Here's a pick. Here, one of you two take this. I'm just going to go for my body. Just brute force it. Okay, everybody come over here, and we'll go down. And
Don't want to announce this kind of stuff in Proc's chat.
saw him. Fence. Fence.
All right, here we go.
Alright. Judging by the bullets, he's hitting the wall. He's hitting the walls. He's definitely on the side.
Here I made a risky choice. You see, the enemy and their bugged prox chat icons were about to breach the wall I was using to defend, so I could use this time to swing around and ambush them, but if I died, I wouldn't respawn in the bunker.
Candy! Go! Candy! Go!
However, at the exact time I turned around the corner, my game lagged badly. Not a single one of my bullets fired. This was bad, because now they had essentially cleared the entire bunker, so I rushed back. However, this wasn't completely wasted, because I expected to die at some point, so I had made a secret tunnel leading back to the chest room. But by the time I got there, they already took all the equipment except for an axe. I had a plan, and it wasn't much, but it had worked in the past. However, once I told the enemy I was still inside, they just abandoned the bunker, leaving it to me. But even if they didn't take the bunker itself, I still needed to get some more gear. So I made a deal with an arms trader, who for the price of 3 recently mined diamonds, crafted me another rifle. This was a good trade, but I still needed more resources, so I went mining, and I mined a huge bunker with about twice the distance and way more landmines. However, the enemy this time wanted me to attack, but not only would I be attacking the mercenaries, I would also be attacking my old team, since they were now working together. The entire point of this was for me to find a real challenge, but at this point we hit the limits of a solo player. If the enemy had 5 defenders and a bed, that meant we would have to kill all 5 defenders in 1 minute before they could respawn, move all the way up, reach the wall, get in, and kill all 5 defenders again before they could make it back from their spawn point, all without dying a single time. I knew this was well beyond impossible from the start, but we still had to launch an attack, so I crafted some of the cheapest snipers and close-range rifles, stashed a few of them nearby world spawn, and began staking out the non-mercenary team's base. You see, one of their players was late to log on, so I waited to see if I could ambush them. However, after waiting long enough, they didn't log on, so I moved to the main base. I started by crawling into position. How it works is we gotta snipe them. There we go, we got one of them. The first was easy, but now I was on the clock and had to kill all the defenders before they could respawn from inside their base. I can see one there. Yeah, I missed my shots on that guy. No, I'm aiming low. Okay, I can't see where I'm aiming. With the second down, the first was already back from his spawn point, not to mention the other defenders. Realizing I would have to get closer, I repositioned. Here, I completely passed a guy who I clearly should have seen and walked right onto the base. The next attempt, I moved around the side. But even though I killed one wearing armor, I still died. My next attempt, I set a trap. We're gonna lure them out over here. The only issue was the trap didn't go down to the stone layer, so it got blown up very fast. But then again, that was the point, to bait them out into another attack. But then an idea came into my head. I could ambush the non-mercenaries while they walk back to their own base. Then, they won't have any special respawns or base walls to protect them. So I abandoned my position and ended the raid. Then I got into a new position and waited. I popped out to take a look, but one guy saw me. Oh, we got one of them. Grab it and run. Successfully ambushing one, I knew the rest of the enemies were on their way, so I tunneled to escape. Later, when I thought I was clear, I moved up. Oh, I hear things moving. That's never good. But I could hear someone else on the surface, so I went back down, and it took me a while, but eventually, whoever it was finally lost me. After making it back to the base, I received a word that an attack would occur within the hour, but this time I was prepared. You see, mobs don't spawn on the server, so I couldn't make a bed, meaning I would only have one life. However, there is an exception. Teams of 3 gain access to a few privileges, including a free bed. So all I had to do was grab 2 other broke players who I knew I could count on to never log into the server, and now I had respawn capability. Also, as I rushed to prepare, I found this guy who somehow made it all the way inside my new and improved bunker. No clue how he got here, but after kicking him out, I got into position. And it wasn't long before the attack began. It started with an enemy bombardment of the cabin above. I landed a few shots, but the enemy was now aware of my position, so I waited. Oh, they've dropped some gravel on it. From my position, I could see a number of them dropping into the bunker. Alright, that's one down. Now this part is especially important, so remember the username for later. Anyways, I moved further back into the bunker. Oh, they've just got a charge there. Well, that's one way to do things. But at this point, the enemy had learned some tactics, and they began using explosive charges for each corner. Get the retreat ready. Okay, they placed another charge. Nice. How did he get back so fast? Now the enemy had a friendly fire incident, but you notice anything suspicious? It's the same guy I just killed less than 3 minutes ago. So this time, it wasn't just me who had a spawn point. The enemies did as well, and they had way more people. So I knew this fight would be hard, but I wasn't gonna give up now. Knowing that they would respawn soon, I tried to press my advantage, but I was blown up by an RPG. After respawning, I realized an issue. Each time I died, it would take an average of 22 seconds to even load the game. And with no teammates covering me, that meant if I died, the enemy would have about 27 seconds to rush forward before I could even re-gear. Now that half the bunker had already been cleared, I decided to maximize the number of mines, since if I didn't use them now, I may never get an opportunity to do so. Then I tried an interesting tactic, but the mine exploded before I could move behind the wall. I know, I am very smart. So I had to respawn, and there was no telling how long the mines would be able to hold the enemy off. Thankfully, I was able to make it back, but after waiting a while, I realized I had an opportunity to destroy the enemy's bed. So I set up some mines to hopefully distract the enemy long enough while I dug up. Let's see, where is this bed that they keep spawning back in from? Once on top, I gave a quick search of the nearby area, but I knew I couldn't spend any longer or else I risked the enemy taking the entire bunker. So I moved back down to hopefully ambush 1 or 2 of them. Okay, we just gotta avoid landmines. But I died too quickly. As I waited in another room, I could hear the enemy explosives. Then an explosion caused some silverfish to reveal my location. So I died. It was now the final stretch of the bunker. If they realized how much I was lagging, they could at any point now push all the way to the spawn point uncontested. It was time to bring out the desperate measures. You see, for this raid, I've been playing without armor, because I'm expecting to die. But now it's do or die, and probably both. I tried holding them off from a long corridor. Alright, we got one of them. But they had snipers, and RPGs. Alright, that's not good. They've made it to that kill box. Well, it's time to get into here. Oh, however, their RPGs backfired. So I used the secret passage I had built into the base to move up. But since I was still scanning for enemies, I tripped one of my own mines. When I came back, I grabbed as much as I could. If I can, grab the armor. I can't even hold all of it, alright. By now, I knew they were back, so I had to be careful. I got one from my firing position, but there were still more. I got a second one, but in the end, a third got me. However, while the third enemy waited for reinforcements, I was able to return again. Oh. Here I took another one out, but shortly after realized I had no medical supplies on me, so when I turned the corner again, I died. But at this point, the enemy had made it back to my spawn point and they finally trapped me in a spawn loop. And thus, the bunker was taken. Now, not all stories have happy endings, but in this video I pressed solo gameplay to its limits, and its limits we did find. Now here's where I would put the end of the video and we'd have some sort of wise lesson. But you see, after I finished writing the script, we had another battle for the finale of the season, in which I teamed with an undercover YouTuber. You can see the full footage here, but we won the battle. And the undercover YouTuber also took out himself as well. That's not super important, but it's funny. So I did technically win, even though we didn't win the bunker defense. So anyways, what lessons can we learn from this? Well, for one, don't put your trust in temporary things like internet connection or skill or winning or losing, because those will come and go. Instead, put your trust in eternal truth that will last forever and will not change over time. Anyways, subscribe, nerds.